Hello, hello. I think we're live. This is so weird. I've never been live before. This is my first live. I don't know if anybody's here, but hello. We're gonna talk some astrology in a minute. I am just getting myself acquainted with how all this works, though. All right. What? This is crazy, guys. So I used to do lives all the time on like Facebook and whatnot, and I'm so happy that I can finally do lives here. So we're gonna talk about my astrology study. If you don't know, I am studying how neurodivergence, specifically ADHD and ASD, present in astrology charts. So you can check out my my pinned post if you want to contribute your chart to the study. This has all blown up in the last week, and I work a full-time job, so I haven't really had time to analyze a lot of charts. I have, I think, 200 charts, I think over 200 charts to add. I already have 70 in my spreadsheet, and I have 200 to add to that. So bear with me as I, get everything together. I am super stoked, though, to share some of what I'm finding, and I think I'm going to make these like a weekly, maybe Saturday live update on what I'm finding in the study. So if you have any questions, whether it be generally about astrology, let me know. If you have questions about the study specifically, also let me know. Yeah. I was looking at things last night before, I think. Not that it matters. And I did find something really interesting that I have not shared yet. And I figured the easiest way to show you would be to have a printout of my chart, because what I noticed is something that is very prevalent in my own chart. So, just a quick overview of some of my initial observations. I have been finding that a lot of us have a lot of empty houses. And I just did a video explaining what that looks like, what that means. So obviously you can check in on that, but just as an overview, here's my chart. This is a printout of my chart that I used when I was first learning astrology. So that's all that I had printed out. But if you haven't seen a chart before, that's what it looks like. You have all of the planets here in the signs, and then all these divisions are houses. So when I talk about empty houses, that just means divisions of this chart that there are no planets in, right? So the house is still has a sign associated with it. There's just no planets in there. You guys are gonna experience how I communicate real time with this, so bear with me, because obviously TikToks I edit and record multiple times so that I have concise thoughts. I have a Pisces Mercury, so my thoughts are kind of floaty and all over the place. Bear with me. Houses, right? So I've noticed that a lot of us that are neurodivergent have a lot of empty houses. This chart right here, this printout, includes some asteroids that I'm not including in my study. Also, I have an eye twitch. I've had this eye twitch for like 2 weeks now, and it's getting really annoying. Anyway, so a lot of us have these empty houses, and that is also if you don't include Chiron or the North Node, there's even more empty houses. So like if I were to take Chiron out of my chart, I would have I think I would have 8 empty houses. And I'm pretty sure that's unusual in the grand scheme of things for most charts. But for this study, it's very common, which is super weird. I look like I'm a little laggy. Let me know. My phone is... I'm getting a new phone today, so next time you see me, things will be a lot smoother. Empty houses. There's a lot of empty houses in these charts that I'm looking at. And here's where it gets weird, because that's like, okay, cool. Empty houses, that's not too unusual, right? I'll get into some flaws about this study later, because there's definitely some flaws here. The weird thing I'm seeing is bowl-shaped charts. So that is where all of your planets fall in, I think it's half of your chart. There's like specific degrees. I don't remember off the top of my head. I have like a sheet that I use to remember all of those, because my brain doesn't latch onto those very well. So you have a bowl-shaped chart, but then when you add Chiron, it becomes a bucket. So basically the bowl is like half the chart, right? A bucket is half the chart with one on the other side that's at least 30 degrees away from the bowl. I have that and was like, oh, that's unusual, right? So this is kind of what it looks like. And again, I have extra stuff on here, so like ignore these. These are not something that I'm looking at. This is not something that I'm looking at. So these two houses for me are empty for the purposes of this study. So you have my chart down here, and it's folded. Maybe you can... Doop. Got this. So you have things here. There's the bowl. My Chiron is over here as the bucket handle. My chart is weird. Anytime I share my chart in normal astrology spaces, people are like, what? I have seen this bowl with specifically Chiron turning it into a bucket. I haven't counted how many times, and I've only looked at, again, like 70 of the charts that I have. So that's weird. Really interesting. Sometimes it's not Chiron in that position, it's actually the North Node, which only kind of counts because it's not even an asteroid. It's a point. It's kind of a weird thing in a chart, but so that's some of my current findings. I'm gonna let me explore here. I still don't really know what's going on with this live thing. What is that? Hello. If you're just joining, let me know if you have astrology questions, or specifically about my neurodivergence astrology study. Just going over some of my recent findings, and I would love some questions to work off of. Because I am taking... So I have 70-something charts in my like spreadsheet that I have right now. I have like 200 that I still have to add. So I'm still taking them. There's a pinned post where you can add your birth info or instructions on how how to get me your info if you're not comfortable publicly sharing it. So it's not that I need more charts, but I'm still taking them because why not? I have no clue what my cutoff is going to be. I thought that I was just going to cap it at like 50. I was hoping to get about 50 charts. And then I was like, well, maybe more like 100. I'm ending up with at least 300 charts, and it's blowing my mind. I'm so excited to share. This is something that I've been curious about for a while. In general, sort of how mental health presents in astrology charts. I have I've dealt with anxiety for most of my life. Although come to find out that a lot of my anxiety is not actually really anxiety, it's sensory overload and like autistic meltdown type things. But I've also dealt with depression, which I think is a similar thing. A lot of that is burnout. Although I have had bouts of like really bad depression also. So I've been very curious about how mental health presents, and I'm also so this is a little bit of the issues with this study and how it's not as accurate as it could be, because neurodivergence diagnosis in general is not always accurate. Even clinically, it's not always accurate. And I would almost venture to say right now that a lot of self-diagnosing is more accurate than actual official diagnosis. So like that's kind of, the charts that I'm looking at, technically I have no clue if these people are actually neurodivergent or not. And then there's also is it trauma that presents neurodiverse traits? You know what I'm getting at? Pisces Mercury here, I communicate weird. How did you start reading charts? I've been wanting to share this journey. So I started, what year was that? Beginning of 2018, 2019, somewhere in there. Started studying astrology, and I was a huge skeptic. I'm an Aquarius sun, Aquarius, Mars, and Venus. So there's that. There's a bit of an innate skepticism there. But I was going through a really, really rough patch, and then one of my favorite podcasts, I was getting into like kind of witchcraft and paganism and things like that. One of my favorite podcasts connected to that, the Witch Bitch Amateur Hour, still absolutely love them. I don't keep up on them as much as I would like, but incredible podcast. They started talking about Uranus retrograde and how that was affecting particularly people with prominent Aquarius placements. And they described exactly what I had been going through for the previous 6 months. Also, let me know if my connection gets weird. I look laggy on my end. My phone is on the fritz. I'm getting a new one soon. Like today, actually. But I keep seeing myself laggy. Anyway, I learned about Uranus retrograde. It explained a lot of things. And that's when I learned that you have a whole entire chart. So I started digging into my chart and very much hyperfixation, dove into learning about astrology. And it helped me. I am laggy. Cool. It helped me so much to learn about what I was going through, from a somewhat objective standpoint, right? Because when you're looking at what you're going through in life, you are in the midst of your own perspective, of your own bias, of, it's your life. But when you have an objective view from your chart, you can see this is what my energy is. And then you add transits and you can see this is the energy that's affecting me. And it's a much more objective view than just what am I going through based on emotions, you know? So I dug into my chart, and that's where it started. And I got, very, very close, very intimate with my own chart, and broke it apart and figured it out. And I'm still piecing together my chart. It's actually a lot easier for me to read other people's charts than it is to read my own. And I think that's just because there's that personal, it's very personal, you know? So that's how I started. And then of course I just started looking at charts of people I'm close to. Looking at my boyfriends, looking at my sisters. That was a fun one. Especially with my sisters having grown up with them. Really interesting to look at their charts. And then I like to look at charts of my coworkers and other people. Let's see, what else? I'm very glad I'm doing this too. I think it's yeah, and I think the more charts I look at, I think I will see, I think I'll be able to tease apart kind of what's trauma and what's actually neurodivergence. At least that's my hope. But we'll see, because I've never done a study like this before. So we're kind of not quite making it up as I go, but filling in the gaps and figuring out my method as I go. If anybody is interested in booking a reading with me, I did actually finally get a website together. So if you go to my Instagram, because I don't have links on TikTok, go to my Instagram and there's a link to book a reading. I do have just a mini brief 10-minute, it's focused on your sun, moon, rising, and then whatever is, left in that time. But there's a link to book that. That one's $37. So that's kind of my basic mini reading. Any new findings besides empty third houses and prominent air? Yes, I was talking about that a little bit before. And again, I haven't really been able to dive into things as much as I would like because I work a full-time job. So most of this is happening when I get home and will be happening on weekends. And I still haven't finished inputting charts into my system. But what I have found is a lot of bowl-shaped charts. So a lot of charts that look like mine, which is weird because anywhere I show my chart, they tell me it's weird. When I compare it to a bunch of other neurodivergent people, it's not weird, which shows me I'm probably onto something. So this is my chart. This is an old printout. There's asteroids on here that I'm not using in this study, and this is a different house system than I use now. So ignore these three things. These are asteroids that I'm not using in my study. So that leaves all of this essentially empty. You can ignore that too. That's my south node. What I'm finding is this shape right here. So all planets in sort of half the chart with Chiron over here on the other side. I started seeing that the other night as I was going through. And for some of it, if it's not Chiron, it's the north node. So a lot of us have this, we're pulled to one half of our chart, but we have that one very important placement that is opposing all of it. And it may not be directly opposing any planets, like my Chiron isn't directly, that's a lie. That's a big lie. It is directly opposing things. It's actually directly opposing my Mercury. Almost directly, anyway. Interesting. So Chiron, If you don't know, Chiron is the wounded healer. So your Chiron placement is often seen as your place of something you struggle with a lot, but you're able to help other people with. It's one of those, like an issue that you know you have, but you can't seem to fix it. So my Chiron is in Virgo. So daily habits and health, which is more of a sixth house than a Virgo thing, but health, groundedness, things like that are a little iffy for me. But I'm great at helping other people. Whole house charts, yay or nay? Yes, I use the whole, or rather, I use whole signs. But I do on occasion like whole house. I think there's validity to every house system. I think there's different applications. I couldn't tell you exactly what those best applications are per system. But I will often, so I use whole signs, and then I will cross-reference with Placidus sometimes. But since I read very intuitively, I use the house system that I receive the most information from, and for me that's whole signs. But I do, on occasion, I like whole house also. All planets on one side, bucket. Oh, with your ascendant as a handle. Interesting. I've seen a little bit of that. I'm seeing more common Chiron or the North Node, and on occasion Saturn. Also, the empty third house thing, specifically the third house, because empty houses in general, there's a lot of it. I would say on average, with the charts that I've looked at so far, probably average to 5 empty houses. 5. Empty third house. If it's not empty, I'm finding that a lot of people have Saturn in their third house, or it's a generational planet, so it might be like Neptune and Uranus. Yep. Left side of the chart with Chiron way on the other side. Found my page and went into a deep dive. Oh no. I think I lost connection there for a little bit. Oh man. How are we doing? Sorry guys, I know my connection is wonky. Next time I do a live, I'll have a new phone and this will be better. I'm working off of a iPhone 7 that I've had for at least 3 years. So we're switching to a Galaxy today, and I'm pretty stoked. Anyway, astrology. What other questions do you have for me? I'd love to just, obviously, this is to touch on my own neurodivergence. I've been pretty certain about ADHD for a year and a half now. ASD is a new thing, so I'm kind of like figuring out trying to identify what my hyperfixations versus special interests have been. And I think I could almost say that learning is my special interest, and I think that's the only way I got through school. And within that, I have hyperfixations. And my connection is weird again, isn't it? I'm glad that TikTok tells me when I have an unstable connection. That's actually kind of nice. Anyway, hyperfixation astrology, 100% has been one of the biggest ones and one of the longest lingering ones, which would probably make it more of a special interest. And then you factor in that it's a very intuitive thing for me, and I think that is something else to factor in with neurodivergence, is I think a lot of us are very intuitive people. I think if you look at a lot of our Myers-Briggs types, a lot of us are intuitive, which is what the N stands for, and what's the last? I think it's perception versus judging is the last letter. So the P, a lot of us are N's and P's, but there's also J's. There's, like, I'm an INFP, and I see a lot of IN. I see, and I'm just spitting out shit right now because I haven't been able to look at a lot of the data with that, but I have some theories with Myers-Briggs, and that might be next. Empty 7th, 8th Cancer. Interesting. Yeah, there's INFPs are just like, oh no, did I disconnect there? I think I disconnected for a bit. I was so good for a little bit there, and now I'm just like disconnecting. Let me see. I think I'm back. I turned off my Wi-Fi, so maybe that'll help. Oh. Lilith in Gemini in the 11th house. So I don't actually, I haven't done a deep dive into Lilith yet, and that's one that I have been wanting to dive into. It's almost like that's one that I feel like there is a lot there, and I just haven't been ready to dig in yet. Although I did grab this is my absolute favorite, most recommended astrology book. If you want to learn how to pull apart your own chart, this book right here. This is an older edition, I think, but Astrology for Yourself. Let's not knock over my coffee. Astro.com has an incredible amount of resources, though. Like, start there 100%. So many wonderful resources there. But if you want a book, I like to have a physical reference. This book is 10 out of 10 absolute favorite. Mercury, okay. Yeah, there's definitely... So the reason I pointed out the 3rd house first, I'm gonna look up Lilith in my book, by the way. That's why I grabbed it. I'll come back to that in a minute. So I started looking at the 3rd house first because that is connected to Mercury. It's connected to Gemini, Mercury. It's communication. It's to me, it's very connected to brain functioning. It's connected to learning. It's connected to specifically like early development learning. And with neurodivergence being a brain thing, differently wired brain thing, to me that screams 3rd house. So the fact that a lot of our 3rd houses are empty, weird. I love it. Where is... So the cool thing about this book is that it's a workbook, essentially. So it goes through explaining, like, here are all of the signs and all the planets. And then it has you fill out, like, my sun is in the sign of Aquarius. I can express this energy best by embracing these qualities, and it gives you like keywords from your sign to fill in the blank. So it really helps. It gives you a formula to break things down, and it's so helpful. Seesaw chart with moon and... Huh. Interesting. I've seen, with all of this, I've seen a handful of sort of that seesaw shape. I'm finding that the like tripod shape is actually a bit more common than the seesaw. Where is Lilith? So Lilith has some my brain, so this is, I start reading astrology things and then I like get some more information from wherever it comes from. Lilith feels very connected to Mars to me. Like if Mars and the moon were to connect, because it's feminine, but also aggressive, can be aggressive. But it seems to have to do with conflict resolution, which is, and that to me brings up, for those of us with neurodivergent brains, internal conflict. So that I might have to add Lilith, but probably later on. Lilith symbolizes the capacity to constructively release repressed anger and resolve conflict. So that's little snippet on Lilith. I'll have to do some more looking into Lilith. I've kind of gradually added asteroids to my chart readings. Chiron is so there that I forget that it's an asteroid sometimes. It's just another planet to me. But every once in a while I'll pull up Ceres and Vesta. Anyway, asteroids. They add a whole other element of things. Human design, they live in contrast. Human design was another little hyperfixation for me. I went through a phase where I really wanted to, and I still kind of want to do this. I wanted to combine and cross-reference astrology, human design, which I know astrology has an influence. It plays a part in human design. Astrology, human design, and Myers-Briggs. The three of those are, I love them. They're wonderful, and I think they each provide something different. But I really enjoy looking into human design, and that's something that I want to revisit. I am a manifesting generator, sacral authority, and I have some weird stuff. I mean, naturally, I have some weird stuff in my astrology chart. I also have some weird things in my human design chart. So I would be very curious to include that in my study eventually, but human design is not quite as intuitive as astrology is for me. So eventually, but not yet, that will be included. Probably. I should include the part of fortune too. Yeah, human design it's very, very interesting. And there's not a whole lot of good resources for it. I found one website, I don't remember off the top of my head what it is because I haven't looked at it in a while. One website that breaks things down really well. And then I have the Human Design book from Karen Curry, I think is her name. That's a really good resource. Not sure how to read retrograde planets. Retrograde planets are a really interesting thing to me. I don't have any retrograde planets, which apparently is not very common, but again is common in this study that I'm doing. And I see I'm getting laggy again, so sorry about that. I think the biggest, most helpful way to view retrograde planets is to think of that energy as shifting from more external, how you interact with your environment, to being more internal. So if you have natal Mercury retrograde, instead of it being mostly about how you communicate to others, how you express yourself, it may be more, it's still related to thoughts even when it's not retrograde, but I think it being retrograde pulls it more internal. But can also just make your communication a little funky. Or like if, say, Mars is retrograde natally for you, you may not be outwardly aggressive, but you may be aggressive towards yourself. You may have a lot of anger towards yourself, especially depending on how it's aspected. What time is it? How long have I been live? 3:20. Been live 37 minutes. Okay. Random tangent here. I'm disconnected again. I think I'm back. Okay. I've been seeing, I see like kind of a lot of like angel numbers, repeating numbers, whatever. 37 has been everywhere for the last like month and a half, but it ties back to high school for me. So if anybody is like a numerology person, I know like basic numerology, but like if you know anything weird about the number 37, let me know. It's my number right now. Anyway. Trying to think if there was anything else I wanted to share. 4 planets retrograde. Wondered how it could affect the rest of the chart. Yeah, I mean I would have to look at your chart and see. And even if you were to tell me how things are aspected, I still need to see the chart for it to like click in my brain for some reason. But depends on how things are aspected, depends on what planets they are, obviously. Each planet will have its own sort of retrograde thing. I think the biggest thing with that, and with astrology in general, is that nothing in astrology is inherently good or bad. Like if I could just, that's one thing people, if there's one thing people take away from me in astrology, I feel like that's it. Is nothing is inherently good or bad. It's all energy, and it's up to you how to use that energy. Prosperity and abundance. Is that related to 37? Lost my train of thought. Nothing's inherently good or bad. And that's sometimes, people ask like, oh, what's your favorite sign or what's your least favorite sign? And while I do kind of have answers for that, it is based in stereotype. Cool. I will take the 37s then. I find it it's a very pleasing number to me. I like it. What was I talking about? Oh, stereotypes, favorite signs, least favorite signs. Like Gemini is probably my least favorite sign. But I think that's most of my chart, all of my chart is in the second half of the zodiac. So, like, even my rising is Libra. So I'm all the second half of the zodiac. So I have a lot of if you look at the signs as like a progression, I'm in the later half. So all of the like naiveness of the earlier signs, I don't love. I don't hate, but and that's not to say that every person, I'm disconnected again, I think. It's not to say that every person who has Gemini placements I don't like. That's not it at all, because it's up to you how you use that energy. Just Gemini on its own, not my favorite. Gemini and Cancer, not my favorite. Aries I can deal with for some reason. I still don't love it. Taurus I'm good with, but I think that might be the Venus ruler. As a Libra rising, Libra is also ruled by Venus, so like Taurus I'm cool with. That's also probably why I'm okay with Aries, is because I have a Scorpio moon that's also tied to Mars, which rules Aries. So like, there's those. Gemini, Cancer, And that's another interesting thing, males versus females, and especially with Gemini and Pisces. Like one of my coworkers, she has a Pisces moon and she hates it. But I don't remember, she seemed. Let me know if I'm back. Nope, it's my internet or something. It's my phone. All right, I think I'm back. I have a yes, but then I got a little red dot again. Apparently, when you do TikTok lives, it gives you a little connection status dot. So like, green is good, yellow is not stable, red is you're disconnected. I love it, and I am yellow now. So that's better than red, but not great. Hopefully the new phone fixes that. Anyway, let me know if I'm back now. Let me know if you have questions. Otherwise, I'm going to go on a masculine, feminine energy rant. Okay, maybe not rant, but Capricorn. Capricorn is probably my third least favorite. Oh my, I disconnected again. Now I have green. I'm gonna have to wrap this up soon, I think, because my connection is just not stable. I want to rant about Capricorn. but my phone doesn't seem to want to let me do that. I look fine. Yep, lost connection. It is 3:30. I should not be drinking this much coffee right now. I also have feelings about cuspers. Which are not super black and white feeling, but cool. Well, I'm just gonna keep talking even if I have a red dot then, I guess. This is a new experience for me. Well, kind of new. New on TikTok, not new in general. Capricorn. So nope, that's a straight up lost connection. Now I'm back. It's great. My dad is a Capricorn sun. I have Capricorn, Neptune, and Uranus, which is generational. So like everybody born in like the certain span of time frame is those placement for Capricorn. Too much Capricorn I don't like, because Capricorns are very Capricorn placements tend to be rigid. Capricorn is Capricorn cardinal? Capricorn is a cardinal sign. So, and cardinal plus earth just makes for stubborn in how they want to do things. And they tend to I feel like Capricorn placements tend to sort of block out outside input, if that makes sense. So they get very tunnel vision with what they want to do. It's kind of that like my way or the highway, but in a very thought out, certain sort of way. And I don't always vibe with that. I have Aquarius, Sun, Venus, and Mars, so like I approach things in a very I want to gather all the information and do the best with that I can. Yeah, this is the best way to do it, is very Capricorn, and you cannot convince them that a different way is the best way to do it. They don't respond to that at all. Hi. Yep, one track mind. And obviously, like, these are generalizations. It depends on the rest of your chart. But stereotypes exist for a reason. But you said, come on, phone, scrolly, please. Capricorn sun and moon is at least your feelings and yourself line up. Yeah, and that's like I have very prominent air, as a lot of us neurodivergent people have. So like I'm very intellectual about things. So like things need to make sense to me in an intellectual sort of way. Whereas I feel like Capricorn, it needs to make sense in a practical way. Capricorn is very practical. Earth signs in general are very practical. They think it's logical, but it's not actually logic that's driving it. What you see is what you get. Yeah, when you have your sun and moon lined up. And especially if you add your rising to that, what you see is what you get is 100%. Like my boyfriend is Aquarius, sun, moon, and rising. And Venus and Mars. So it's a good thing I like Aquarius. What you see is what you get with him. What else was I gonna babble about? Oh, Aquarius rising. Interesting. So you have a lot of the Capricorn-ness to you. But you probably go about things in your life with more of that logic in mind. Or at least that's what people see from you. How you personally actually go about it is more of a Mars thing. I like Aquarius rising people though. I just like Aquarius in general. Like I'm a little biased because I have a lot of Aquarius, but like it's in the top favorite signs for sure. Anybody else have any astrology questions or neurodivergence in general or study questions? While I actually have a decent connection. I do have a headache though, so I might pop off soon, but we shall see. Trying to think if there was any other things that I found in the study that I wanted to share. Just a lot of empty houses. I'm seeing a lot of empty houses. And just got on houses. It's so since I work more or less full time, I haven't had a lot of time to actually am I connected? I haven't had a lot of time to actually input and study charts. So I have about 70 something of the like 300 charts I have to input into my little spreadsheet setup. So I'm working on getting everything inputted, and then I'll get to more in-depth analysis. Of course, I'm, observing as I go, and that's where I'm getting some of these initial findings. Like the fact that so many, what is the rose thing? Thank you for whatever that is. What was I gonna say? Wow, I am losing my train of thought like no other. This is great. I don't remember what I was gonna say. I got distracted. But yeah, it's going empty. Right, I'm seeing. Thank you. Seeing a lot of empty houses. I was gonna actually explain what that is, because I posted earlier today before I got on here about what empty houses look like. I did not really explain what that means. So the houses are divisions in your chart that represent essentially areas of life. So like your first house is how you move through the world. It's how you look. It's very personal. Second house is possessions. It's things that you have. Third house is early learning, communication, siblings. So they kind of go around like that, right? Each house has their own theme. When houses have planets in them, you get an emphasis of that planet's energy in that area of life. So like I have my sun, I think I'm disconnected again. I have my sun in my 5th house. So, and when you add the sign in there, that that influences sort of the style in which that energy is portrayed. So I have my sun in Aquarius in my 5th house. So sun being my personality and my creative energy is done in an Aquarius style. So wanting to be different, but also wanting to, it's mental, it's intellectual. And of course I'm that brain cut off. Anyway, houses, because I'm supposed to be talking about houses. 5th house is creativity, sometimes children, self-expression. So my sense of self, my creative energy is very creative. I express myself, express my identity through my creativity. So that's kind of how houses work when there's planets in the houses. And I'm laggy again. When you have an empty house, it kind of depends on your sources. Some people will say that that is representative of something that maybe you more or less mastered in a past life, right? So it's not an area of importance in your current life. I feel iffy about that. Also, sorry if you hear obnoxious voices. We have neighbors that like to be really loud in our stairwell. Empty houses still got that eye twitch going on again. They still have an influence on your life, but you take away the specific energy of the planets, and you have that those areas of life are more affected by the sign that rules them. So like my 3rd house is Sagittarius. So even though it's empty, I do those 3rd house things in a Sagittarius way. So my general learning and communication is expansive like Sagittarius. What? So having empty houses doesn't mean that those don't apply at all to your life. It just means that you have to analyze them differently than if there were planets in them. If that makes sense. Having so many houses, I haven't quite dialed that one in. It sort of creates areas of focus in your life, because when you have a lot of empty houses, that means that all of your planets are grouped up into fewer houses. So that kind of dials in areas of focus, leaving the rest of it empty. And I'm trying to, when I'm looking up, I'm like trying to, process what something means. Anyway, that's kind of an elaboration on empty houses. They still mean something, but it's different. It carries a different kind of energy. Most of the charts that I'm looking at have around 5 empty houses. If you want to share your chart, please do. I have a pinned post on how to share your chart with me. I feel like there's more I want to say about empty houses, and I can't quite pin down what it is. So let me know if you have questions, because actually that helps a lot to bring things through. 9, 10, 11, 12, and 1. Yep. Anyway. All right, last call for questions because my headache is starting to come back in full force, so that's no fun. I will be doing these regularly because I like being live. I like chatting in this way. So I'm thinking it'll be primarily updates on my study, and I'll probably do them on Saturdays, but maybe Sundays too. Also, totally forgot to mention, I will be doing a giveaway to celebrate. First, it was going to be to celebrate hitting 1,000 followers, and I'm already over 2,000 now, so I will be giving away 2 free readings. These will be 20-minute general chart readings. They won't be live, it'll just be I record it and I give it to you via a link to a private or unlisted, whatever it is, YouTube video. So, details on that to come. Thank you for the rose again. I'm not sure exactly how I'll be working that. It'll probably just be a post to, follow me, like it, comment. You'll be entered into the giveaway. Something to that effect. I don't know. I've never actually done a giveaway before, but I wanted to do something like that to celebrate hitting 1,000 and then 2,000 followers. I still am baffled that I have hit over 2,000. I was at 700 a week ago. So I'm glad that so many people are along for the ride of this study that I'm doing. It's going to be fun. So yeah, if you are interested in a reading, one, you can book a reading regardless. If you weren't here for that, that's through my Instagram link. I don't remember what the website is off the top of my head. Or like what the, link is. But yeah, I'll be doing a giveaway. Would I date someone who is perfect, but I mean, okay, so my boyfriend is not into astrology. He's very supportive of me being into astrology, and he'll let me, babble on to him sometimes, but I don't think that would ever be inherently a deal breaker, but I also don't see myself ever dating anybody other than my boyfriend, because we've been together for 8 years, so although I would look into their chart regardless. Anyway, last call for questions. I'll give it another 5 minutes. I was hoping caffeine was going to help with my headache today. Apparently that's not the case. At work we're hiring some new people, and we joke about that should be part 2 of the interview, is they sit down with me and I analyze their astrology chart. Wow, congrats. That's crazy. Yeah, me and my partner got together in college when we were 20, and we had a bit of a rocky start because neither one of us were looking for anything serious, and here we are 8 years later, 2 halfway across the country moves and a dog. And yeah, he doesn't really give a shit about astrology, but I still love him. I know, my puppy's so cute. She is passed out next to me. We have a squishmallow right here that lives on the couch that is her couch bed because she kept stealing my smaller squishmallows. So I don't love CoStar. There's a lot of iffy things that I've heard about it, and I just don't like it. Snapchat actually has a much better astrology thing. Libra and Capricorn, interesting. Yeah, so my partner and I are only a week apart, like literally same year, week apart. So we both have, um, thanks for joining. I'll be on next weekend again. Um, we have Sun, um, Mars and Venus, all in Aquarius, both of us. And then a lot of other placements are the same. Houses are completely different, though. He was born in the morning, I was born in the evening. So houses are different, moon is different. I have a Scorpio moon and he has an Aquarius moon. So there's some tension there. Lily, come here. Come here. No, she's too sleepy. I was gonna show everybody the puppy, but she is a sleepy bean. All right, any last minute? We got a minute left. Last minute astrology questions. Go. See if I can get my dog to stir enough to say hello. Cooper. No, it's not happening. The body chart? Do you mean like the human design body chart or something else? Because I think that's the only thing that I know that is called a body chart. My nose is so itchy today. I love human design. Thank you. I just dyed my hair. I think it's a really interesting tool. I think there is a lot of validity to it. I'm a little rusty with my human design knowledge, but I do have quite a bit of it. I'm sure if I were to revisit it, it would just come right back to me. I think it's a really interesting way to visualize different components because astrology is factored into it and a couple other things. And it definitely, there's some key things that it provides that astrology doesn't. So I think it's really beneficial for those things. And definitely recommend, if you're looking for resources, Karen Curry's book. That's my favorite resource that I have found. Anyway, I think, unless there's another last question, I think that's gonna do it. Dog is still too sleepy to to move a foot and a half. Anyway, I think that about does it. I will potentially, but probably not be live again tomorrow. Actually, I might not even be live next weekend, come to think of it. We have a couple things to do, so it might be 2 weeks. I want to figure out how to make these an event, but I don't seem to have the option to do that. So we'll see. We shall see. But if you ever have any astrology questions, just comment on something. I'm trying to remind myself that I don't love just teaching things, but I really love clarifying and working with questions. So please feel free to ask any questions anytime on any of my posts, even if it's not relevant to your question. But with that, I'm gonna go. Thank you to all of you who have joined me on my first live. I can't wait to do more of these. So that's it. Stay tuned for a post about the giveaway. Bye.